sitting fine, and we'll just take this microphone and just turn it on and pass it down. Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for being here. On behalf of the Human Development Council and Civic Tech St. John, we welcome and thank you to the candidates for participating and to all of you for taking the time to engage in this important civic conversation. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're gathered on the traditional and unceded territory of the Wolastoqey and Mi'kmaq people. The Woolastoq, the river that connects this region to a much broader homeland, has been a place of life, travel, and community for thousands of years and remains central to that identity today. As we come together this evening, we recognize that the issues we're discussing, community, housing, and well-being, are experienced differently across communities, including Indigenous communities. We offer this acknowledgement as a small but important step in recognizing that history and our shared responsibility moving forward. Tonight's forum is intended to provide a respectful, non-partisan space for candidates to share their perspectives. The Human Development Council and Civic Tech do not endorse candidates. Our role is to support informed, thoughtful civic engagement. A quick overview of the format. Candidates are seated in it was to be a predetermined order by picking a draw, but they were quite happy to sit where the cards said that they were seating. So as you can see, we have 6 candidates tonight. 2 are not with us, Bobby Hayes and Mr. Goodwin. Candidates will have up to 60 seconds per response. A microphone will be passed along the table. I'll keep time to ensure fairness, and we have a timekeeper at the back that'll be waving to the candidates when they approach the end of their designated time slot. From time to time, I may ask a brief follow-up or invite 1 or 2 additional responses. I won't be able to return to everyone on each follow-up, but I will aim to ensure a balanced discussion. Questions reflect input from community, particularly around housing, poverty, access to services, and inclusion. We ask everyone to keep the tone respectful and focused, and let us begin. I'll start an opening round of 60 seconds each to each candidate, starting with Mr. Sullivan on my right, to the question, why are you running, and what is one issue you would prioritize?
Thanks, Randy. In 2007, I was working with One Change as part of my teaching job at Lorne Middle School. We were trying to influence the programming at the North End Community Center. We thought that if One Change actually ran the center, there could be better services for the residents of the old North End. Resistance from City Hall led to my initial run on Common Council, and eventually the Nick Nicole Center, under the leadership of One Change, was born. What I discovered in that first term was that I have an interest in financial policies and land use policy that the city that's been my home my whole life. I also feel like I've been quite effective in my work on those files, as evidenced by the sound financial shape that our city is in now. That's the why for Gary Sullivan. As for the what's next, there are a few initiatives I believe will help move our city forward. Continued focus on fair taxation in the city, including residential property tax rates, continued focus on the best possible electricity rates and water meters so that residents can have more control over their water bill. These are all within the control of City Hall. My ask of council will also be to send a letter, our 3rd, to the province to ask the Department of Transportation to install fencing on the Reversing Falls Bridge to reduce the rates of suicide in our city. That's my what's next.
Hi, I'm Tamara Steele. I've worked here in St. John as a journalist for the better part of 20 years. I've been with the government the last 3 years. When I first came home in 2004 from Ontario, I'm originally from Newcomers, but I went to Ontario, came back. I came back with a radio job, which was a dream come true, but things were not good. Things were really bad here. I remember a headline in the TJ that said, the poverty line was 22,000 and I'd come home for 22,500 or something. I went, what did I do? And it was kind of like that for a while. There were some rough times and things have really changed in the last few years. And I think overall it's very positive, but there are also a lot of challenges too. I live north and I I think my neighborhood has incredible potential for development, but I would worry that it would become unaffordable for the people that live there now, unaffordable for many. That's a concern, even though it'd be great to see development where an idle building sits or an empty lot. So I think it needs to be a mix. I would really love to see truly mixed housing in my neighborhood and in many neighborhoods, so it's affordable to live in this beautiful city. Thanks.
Hi. So I'm Balázs Lajta. I chose St. John 4 years ago because I believe St. John is a city worth rebuilding. The problem I want to address is the price that we have to pay to live in St. John. The built environment is making the city unaffordable for the public and unmaintainable to the city. Homelessness is only the tip of the iceberg. Renters are a renovation away from ending up on the street, and owners are dragged down by the interest payments on the American dream. The city is $500 million behind on infrastructure maintenance. We need to make St. John resilient. We had a livable city once, and we tore it down in the name of progress. The council has the power to allow more density, offer transit alternative for working people, bring shopping within walking distance, and provide affordable third places. My plan is a floor under those trying to keep up and the ladder for those who have fallen behind.
Awesome, thank you, sir. I'm going to do a stand here. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. My name is Jerry Irish, and I'm running at large for council in this election. I decided to run because I love St. John, every part. I grew up in the city on the north end. I moved over to the west side to finish my school years, and then I brought my family to the east side where we put down roots. Working on council, I'm looking to listen, understand, and then act on behalf of all St. Johners. My work experience includes building a small renovation company, building that into a property management company that allows me to understand the struggles that people in St. John now find themselves in. We need relief. I have a plan for housing that reflects the needs of St. Johners, supported by addiction, mental health, and accessibility services that included that we can work with our partners in all 3 levels of government. We need to grow revenue with a good strategic plan that includes expanding our residential tax base and making St. John the place to be to set up a business and do work. Bringing in different, okay, thank you.
Hello. So my name is Gina, and I probably don't need this microphone. I'm quite loud on my own. I didn't prepare a speech, so I'll just give you a little history on myself. I was born and raised in the south end of St. John by a single mother. I was one of the children of the 22% statistics from poverty. I was rehomed when my mother passed away, and I lived in East St. John, where I reside today. I am a single mother, and I am an independent business owner. I work as a realtor in the city of St. John. Prior to this, I was a business manager at the Maritime Opportunity Center in West St. John for approximately 12 years. During my time working as an adult in this city, I've spent many times with many organizations volunteering. One I had over 10 years with would be Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. I was a volunteer in a leadership role, and then I was a volunteer in a treasurer's role. So I understand firsthand how voting, Robert's Rule, council, board members, and teamwork and collaboration amongst multiple levels of government are effective in making things successful. So I look forward to being able to continue to serve my community in different ways. And I believe that public safety and accountability, which go hand in hand, are very crucial right now in our community because people stay where they feel safe. So thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Hi, everybody. My name is Dave Conzi Connell. Everybody in the hockey circles would know me as Conzi. I was actually born in Ontario. My dad was a railway guy from St. George. Moved back here 57 years ago, and this is where I've been ever since.
Even when I went on to university, I always told everybody I was from St. John, even though I grew up in the Kennebecasis Valley. And I'm running in the fact that I've reached out numerous times to numerous council people, and no one's ever gotten back to me. So transparency is going to be huge with me. If someone emails me or calls me or even talks to me on the street, I'm definitely going to email you back. There's lots of stuff in St. John that I love. This city is beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I think if we can go further along with the waterfront, what's going on, this place would be a superb place for anybody to come. I mean, there's lots of other issues in and around the city, but basically, I'm here for everything and everybody. So anyway, thank you.
Thanks, and you might as well hang on to that, and we'll start with you for the first question. As we head into spring, visible homelessness is likely to increase in St. John. What is the one specific action you would take in your first year to respond? And importantly, where should people go immediately if they are living outside?
Good question. Thank you very much. I'm a little, not knowledgeable of everything that's happening with that. I think it's more of a provincial jurisdiction at the moment, but I think that it's definitely a crisis, and a lot of things are happening. We need everybody to be on board with everything that's going on, the police, the fire, the EMS, and the community to help out what's going on at best of our abilities that we can, pretty much. I would just try to lobby to the provincial government as much as we can to get extra help in terms of what's going on. It's because if we don't, then it's going to be out of control.
So I believe that we don't just need affordable housing, we also need what we call safe housing. Many times we see people living in homes that most likely could be condemned. So I did see recently that Minister Hickey's doing a survey, and I have shared it to my social medias and amongst other organizations so everybody can kind of have their say. With part of that survey, he was suggesting that they do open policy, like a website, a forum where you can check out reviews. That may be a potential. Homelessness happens for many reasons. Some people, unfortunately, are one paycheck away every day. Some people have addiction and mental health issues. There's many, many reasons, and I don't believe that it's going to be a one-size-fits-all solution. I believe that we have to work with people. I'm slightly old school, and I believe that we'll do better if we teach the man to fish instead of providing him with a fish. So I believe, again, that there has to be a level of accountability. Again, we need to reassess and continue to reassess because, just because this worked for our client number A doesn't mean that client number B needs the same resources or structure. There is multiple things. There's the Salvation Army, Romero House. There's the homeless shelter for the unhoused on Rossay Avenue and some other resources within the city. But my time is up, so I'm going to pass the mic. Thank you.
Thanks, Gina. Homelessness, we're in crisis right now in St. John. We have people on the streets that didn't want to be homeless. They are homeless for a number of different reasons, including high rents, job layoffs, and different items like that. St. John has a plan, but we need to seize opportunities within that plan and make it strategic and accountable so that we have specific time frames, specific financing to be able to move those type of things forward and take care of the vulnerable people that we need to. Places to go, we have several different places to go. I know there's Coverdale, we have our shelters, and we have other places as well. But we really have to make sure that we can bring everybody to know where these places are, how we can help support these people who are out there, who are just citizens like us, who have come on hard times for sure. Thanks.
So I understand that homelessness is a serious problem, but it's just the bottom of a funnel where people are just dropping to the streets. So I think we should both try to stop that decline that ends up costing many people their homes. And when it comes to the urgent problem of housing those who don't have anything, looks like the vacancy rate in St. John is rising. So we are now at 4%, and vacancy rate in social housing projects is at 5%. So maybe there are already units out there that could be repurposed to house those who cannot pay their rent. Because from what I learned, rent for a month in an average apartment in St. John is less than what we spend on a bed at a shelter. So I'm all for housing first projects, namely the Sunnyside community, and I would like to see more of those kinds of projects get approved at the council as soon as possible and get building with the provincial help. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm no expert on this, and I find this issue is extremely complex. I saw a little video on Instagram the other day about how Finland approaches housing, the unhoused housing issues, and they just give everyone housing. Like, you just get it, and then they work out the other stuff after. I feel like in Canada and in St. John and New Brunswick that there are liabilities with that, with maybe the development and building of buildings, insurance and whatnot. So maybe that's not possible. I am not an expert on this subject, but I can tell you that were I to be elected, I would listen and act with kindness.
Thank you. For folks who are newly homeless and looking for where to go, the service provider in St. John is the Fresh Start organization. They have the connections and the empathy and the expertise to help connect to services. St. John's been very effective with our green zones, where we have supportive housing with folks on site who will help train and help support, and there are currently, as of today, 13 spots in the green zones. So if there are folks who are experiencing homelessness and looking for that hand up as opposed to the handout, as was mentioned down the table, good analogy, Fresh Start can help hook up with those services there. It does go beyond that. We need to support the United Way project that's happening in East St. John based on the 12 Neighbors project out of Fredericton. We need to be good neighbors. For those who are looking for help, we can't say, don't put it here. We need to say, yes, please put it here. How can I help? And really, that's the solution that's going to help. And for those folks who don't want help, there needs to be gentle, empathetic enforcement. St. John can't also be one big campground. We have to make sure our schools are safe, our daycares are safe, our cemeteries are respected. So we want folks to get help. Fresh Start is the way through to get to the channels, to the green zones, to get to the support, and really it does take a community.
I'd like to stick with this issue for another question. We're basing some of these questions on surveys that are available, and I would encourage people, if they haven't already, to go online, visit our website, visit Civic Tech, and fill out the form. Homelessness is a top-of-mind issue in this community. The number of visible homeless has never been so high. And so importantly, I'd like to get your thoughts on how will you ensure that decisions on homelessness are based on data, not public pressure?
Where would you like to start?
I think we'll start with you and go back down again.
Okay. I'm the finance guy. We do everything based on data. We can't afford as a city to be doing things on guesses and feelings and Facebook. So the analysis, the gathering of data is incredibly important, building on what has shown success. The tough thing with homelessness is there isn't a city that has solved the problem. There isn't a model out there. So we've got to build the airplane while it's in the air. But as we do it, we gather the data, and our decisions should get better and better and better as our data gets better and better and better.
Thank you. I'd agree. I think having the Human Development Council in St. John is really a coup for us because we have that ready-made information. I was on the site today, and the statistics are staggering. I mean, what's happened in the last 5 years is just unreal, and it's been a shock to see so many tents and, handmade shelters, and I find this time of year where, the leaves aren't on the trees yet, you're seeing them in places where you didn't realize they were. But yeah, absolutely. Use all the data and then maybe get more, like maybe do that survey more often.
Sorry. So I have been brought up in a family of scientists. I worked as a software engineer, so data it doesn't fall too far from me either. I have already made some preparations for this debate. So there are some good data sources out there. Human Development Council is a very good source. Many of the data points are getting fresher and fresher, so we don't have to rely on 2-3-year-old surveys in order to base our decisions on. And anyone who has interacted with me on Facebook knows that I'm very happy to hold unpopular opinions, so I won't be caving to public pressure in order to do the right thing that the data indicates. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There's a lot of data out there, and using it to help us focus on where to put our resources and where we can do the best help is something we really need to concentrate on. Looking to connect with those on the front lines to give a personable side to the data. Looking at data and going through it is one side, but to actually understand it and to put a personal side and a face to it is something that I think we really need to do, because it's been missing in a couple of the decisions we've been making in the last several years. And once we have that, connecting with the people on the front lines, making sure that we build that strategic plan with all those timelines, and moving forward with a comprehensive plan that's going to focus using that data and telling us, okay, we worked with it this way, and this is what it told us, this is where we went. It can be dynamic and say, that didn't quite work out. Let's go over in this direction. We have a lot of different organizations that have good data, and we should continue to listen to them. Thank you.
So to reiterate what I had said earlier about how we have to follow through and we have to reevaluate and we have to constantly be able to change. This is a complex situation and there is no one size fits all. We see a lot more now than we did. Population grew, our housing market did not, which then causes demand, which then influx pricing. So I believe that as we see more development continue to happen, that you may see a slight plateau. But again, we have to continue to reevaluate all of these different parts and components of this, because it is not a one-size-fits-all solution. So if we can get housing more affordable, have housing that is safe, work with the individuals who are struggling to be able to maintain their housing with resources, as Mr. Sullivan had mentioned, Fresh Start. I spoke to one of their employees last week, and they have boots on the ground. They know firsthand what's going on, and we need that feedback at council in order to be able to vote and make the policies, procedures, bylaws, and zoning that's going to keep everybody safe. And like as has been said, everybody deserves empathy, 360 the whole way around the equation. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Kudos to what Gina just said. I'm pretty much going to say that we need to have everybody on board. I myself, I'm unemployed, looking for a job. And I've had 3 rejected letters this week already. So it's pretty disheartening when I don't have an income to pay for things at home, and I've already made arrangements. So it can happen to the best of us. And I think we've got to listen to all the levels of government, especially the provincial government, and even with our federal MP, Wayne Long, here in town, to try to help out at any possible way that we can, because if we don't, it's just going to get worse. But yeah, there's a crisis right now, and we need to make it better.
We're getting there, but let's go a bit deeper still on this question of homelessness. We've talked a bit about coordination, the funding aspect, where people acknowledge, I think they say that it's a formal provincial responsibility, but there's federal money involved in it. But I'd really like to get your impressions is what can the city do? What will you do as an at-large councillor taking into account the interests of the community? What can the city do and what will you push for?
Good question, Randy. Thank you. Once again, if I get into the council chambers, I would try to push for more of a response from the businesses in town that possibly could help out. We could do certain things like fundraising things or whatever, what have you. I'm on the committee at the Aquatic Center, and we've been pushing around the idea of Chase the Ace. Seems to be quite popular, especially down in Charlotte County and other areas in the province. And I'm not sure, like obviously something has to be done at all levels, and it's a complex issue for sure.
So again, we have to work with multiple levels of government, and we have to continue to do these reevaluations. You know, statistically, housing is a provincial initiative, and it's come to the point that the municipality is being asked to kind of invoke whatever's the capacity they can. You know, again, if we have more available units, then again, it takes that demand off of the market, which would make things more affordable and more available. So maybe there's things we can change within the Planning Advisory Committee to fast-track permits, if that's not already done, because I know it was spoken of, but I do not sit on that board, so I can't speak of it. Maybe there's things we can do to help eliminate some of the fees for development. I know recently there was an initiative put out that if so many units in your building would be reduced income housing for those unhoused, that there was federal funding to help get your development off the ground. So we could work as a municipality to help promote these initiatives maybe a little better when they're available to people in our region. Thank you.
Thanks, Gina. Everything we're doing that comes with homelessness and food security, energy security, all of those things are very complex problems. There's going to be a big need to collaborate with different levels of government and ourselves. Building that strong strategic plan will be one of the things we need to do first, and I'll be looking to our housing stock and seeing what we can do there by, developing quality of our existing housing stock, building different options for development, housing for those that are left behind, accessibility issues, extreme poverty, and aligning with and reflecting the needs of the community of what they actually need. We're really needing to work and continue working on those plans. Thank you, sir.
So we all know that housing is a provincial issue or a provincial responsibility, and I think that responsibility doesn't sit well with the province. So Fredericton is too far from the problems of St. John. So while I acknowledge that the province has the funding to solve the problem, I think the city should take a bigger part in the governance of housing. So for example, 20% of social housing units under the New Brunswick control are falling under disrepair, 5% sits empty. The size of the housing doesn't match the size of the households, so there is both an overconsumption and an underconsumption of housing. Elderly people are stuck in 3-4 bedroom houses, even in social housing, like in Crescent Valley, while younger families have to sit in smaller units that are not suitable for their needs. So I think it's the municipality and the local nonprofits and housing corporations that are well suited to govern this problem, to understand the local needs and find local solutions in a closed loop instead of running with every decision up to Fredericton and finding and waiting for answers. So I think the city should step up in that regard.
This will not be that good. I think I would just advocate in my teeny tiny way for more and for people to be treated fairly and kindly. As a former journalist, I love research, so I would do my homework. I would talk to all the players, and that's something actually I'll probably do before the campaign's over. Because I have like a surface knowledge. I just finished my job with the government, and I pulled media articles all day. So I've been still quite aware of St. John issues, but not didn't drill down. But yeah, I think I'd advocate with knowledge and compassion.
Thank you. Certainly, the housing file officially isn't the municipalities, but specifically, what can the city do? We do have land use, so one of the things we can do is have inclusive zoning areas. So just like we want a new apartment building to be mixed income, we can have neighborhoods that are mixed income and do that by design. Something interesting, we were building these green zones, and we have been spending money on affordable housing projects as a municipality because we can move a whole lot faster than the province and the feds, which actually, to their credit, the province and feds recognized and said, here, have a bunch of money because you guys can do it faster than we can. So we are doing some of that. Somebody mentioned speeding up things for developers. That's why we're moving towards electronic permitting. It's going to cost us a few dollars to get that going, but we do need developers to be able to pull the trigger and move faster on their projects. And finally, we do need to improve our communication with neighbors and neighborhoods when they do have a big project in their neighborhood, not to be afraid of it. But part of that is also starting a policy of community benefits so that if there is a major project going on in somebody's neighborhood, yes, they're losing that trail system that they always had that they didn't own because it was somebody else's property, but there is a loss to that neighborhood. If somebody's putting millions and millions, and now we're talking billions in some projects in St. John, projects in a neighborhood, there should be a policy that makes sure that that community receives direct benefit from that project. Because we need the community to welcome, because we need housing at all levels.
Thank you all for that. Housing is one piece of a broader system. We'll turn now to the organizations that are responding to these challenges every day. Much of the response to poverty and homelessness in St. John is delivered by community nonprofits, shelters, food banks, outreach and wraparound supports, harm reduction services, youth serving agencies, and neighborhood organizations. Is the city doing enough to support this sector? And if not, what should change?
That's a great question. I'll say no, the city's not doing enough, but I'll also say the city's capacity to do more for this sector is limited. It's interesting, I was reflecting on coming to the Human Development Council, and I've certainly been a big fan long before I was on council, working with One Change. We worked with Randy, and when I came to council, the Human Development Council got a half-decent sum of money as a bit of a feeder to get them started every year, and then we had a $10 million structural deficit, and funding to the Human Development Council and a few other groups was slashed tremendously. But then I look and reflect on the organization that the Human Development Council has grown into, and how much can the city help with what limited resources we have to give seed funding to help get started. But really, this is where the advocacy and the partnership role of, can we help in kind? Do we have space that we can rent them for free? Do we have resources that they can use? Do we have a channel to help them have a conversation with the MPs and the MLAs to help support? St. John is successful because St. John has a whole lot of organizations that care about St. John. So we do have to work together. We do have to work together with our limited resources to try to do our best to leverage that so that they can get more to keep doing the good jobs that they're doing. But I can't just say sorry, Randy, you can't just write you a check for more money, but I'm willing to work with you to do as much as I can to help with your capacity.
I'd probably yes. I wouldn't know how specifically. I feel like, Randy, at one point in an interview, we spoke about how food banks were instilled in the 80s as a temporary measure. And look where we are now. And then you hear these very upsetting stories about how, a lot more people need them. They're a requirement. I think we maybe have to ask those organizations. I think as a council, the city would have to reach out and say, what do you need and how can we help?
So one of the first things I noticed when I started getting involved with the nonprofits of St. John is that there are so many. So there are a lot of people who have their heart at the right place, but it seems like they have a harder time working together or building bigger structures. So I think there are some inefficiencies when it comes to all these scattered nonprofits working on their own. Coming from Hungary, I also have an aversion against government stepping into the world of nonprofits, because back there, the government involvement has really ruined our nonprofit scene. So I would be reluctant to put this organizational task or this coordination task on the city. So I think the most the city should be doing is funding these organizations as per needed. And another idea is the idea of a social enterprise. So I think I've already seen some seeds in St. John in this domain. So when a nonprofit has also for-profit, so does for-profit things in order to fund their nonprofit. Language barriers. So then the non-profit actions. So I think education in that field and looking at opportunities to introduce services that are also beneficial to the public and maybe offer some efficiencies that allow the non-profit to offer this service at cost or under cost to underprivileged groups would help bridge the gap. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is the city doing enough? The city has done a lot moving forward with their plan for working with poverty and everything that's and homelessness and all these complex issues. But there is opportunity, and there's opportunity in a lot of these groups that are working within our communities now. The Crescent Valley community that's over in the north end, they're doing a lot of things that, some really great work over there. They need our support. They need a space, a larger space. They need, some of their other needs are, they could use some help. They're helping with literacy. They're helping with trying to help work with food scarcity issues, energy scarcity issues, and those type of things. Schools are helping. Schools are helping, and they're doing more. We're asking them to do more, and they're helping us. And there is more to do, and we need a plan to help support them.
So I believe that the city has done what they could with the resources that they have. Sometimes you can only utilize what you have in your tool belt, and when you don't have the tools in the belt, you can't use something that doesn't exist. So the further that we look into these certain situations, again, reevaluate. Is it possible that maybe a representative from each one of these nonprofit organizations attend a meeting quarterly so that we can reevaluate? You know what I mean? Like there's different commissions and different boards that oversee different operations among this city currently. One being the Industrial Park Commission. There's a board of trustees who work doing that. There's a police board commission, board of trustees again that try to take care of that department. Maybe we need to implement something like that so the representatives from a few different of these nonprofits can collaborate together. Again, reevaluate, be accountable, and strategically plan what is in the best interest of the city moving forward. You know, nobody gets up in the morning and says, I want to do something negatively to impact somebody else. We literally, people don't fail people, systems do. So if we continue to reevaluate the systems and implement the changes that are needed, we put more tools in our belt, more boots on the ground, we can actually combat a lot more problems when we work collaboratively together instead of against one another. So thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Kudos to what Gina's saying. I mean, like, it's pretty simple. You don't try to make it complex, because if you make it complex, it's not gonna work. So I would think that if it's a municipal government, you have to lobby the provincial government, you have to lobby your federal people as well, and reach out to these these corporations or nonprofits, and just try to figure out and talk and figure it all out what's going to work at the end of the day. Thank you.
Let's just go a bit deeper on that one too. I'm wondering if you could have some quick answers to this question is, should the city increase support for nonprofits providing essential services? Should the city do that?
Yeah, if the city's got the money to do it, I don't have a problem with that. But I really don't, I'm not there, so I don't know the balance sheet. And yeah, but if it's there, why not?
So municipalities are not permitted to run deficits like provincial and federal governments are. So I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like I'm going to pull money out of a magic rabbit hat, because we all know that the city has been in a financial die-hard situation for a few elections past. We're making great strides moving forward. You know, is there going to be some funds free up after the pension plan payments in 2028? Absolutely. Currently, you know, there's other things at task. People want lower property taxes. People want their roads and infrastructure, police, fire, medics. So again, you have to reevaluate the situations as they occur. You can't sit here today and say in 2028 we're going to do this, because in 2028 it might not be an issue. So again, we'll reevaluate it at that time.
Thanks, Gina. The city has a financial plan, a financial strategy, and if we're going to want to bring in and help support this, we're really going to have to take a look and see what we're not going to do. I think we can really look for opportunity in different areas, look at nonprofits, look how we evaluate and the services that are provided by our nonprofit community people out there, and support them. It's going to take a lot of complex solutions on this, and we have to work collaboratively with other levels of government to help us here. And I think that we really need to continue working on this and make it a dynamic plan, so that if this doesn't work, we can bring these type of resources in, and we just have to really think outside the box on this.
Yes, so this is a hard question, because I like fiscal responsibility, and the city has a lot of infrastructure debt that it has to tackle. But on the other hand, we all want to help everyone. So I think what the city could do is to define the success metrics that it expects from specific fields or specific domains of non-profit organizations, and distribute the funds that it can allocate to these causes in a matter that in a way that it has the biggest impact. So measure, select, and use the funds that we have the best way possible.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we'd all love to support every nonprofit if we could, but I think it would have to be, you'd have to look into that and see what's feasible. Yeah, that's tricky, complicated.
No, but kinda. So we have to move away from giving core funding so that an organization depends on that money coming from the city every year to exist. Because the city has to look after roads and recreation and everything else. But we're in a little more sound financial footing And we do have some opportunities for organizations and nonprofits to apply for project-based funding. So if they have something coming up, a particular project, a particular area that they want to hit, there is opportunity, I think, for the city to have some money set aside to help with particular projects that can help in the nonprofit field, because that way it's not committing to multi-years, and then when the city is in trouble, suddenly we need to cut everywhere. I think that's the smarter way to do that piece. But the other piece the city's been pretty successful with, and I think there's opportunity here, some of the nonprofits like One Change have moved into spaces that used to be city spaces. They now run the former North End Community Center that's now the Nick Nicole Center. And the service agreement we have with One Change, the amount of money we give them, they multiply that many times over. The services coming out of the Nick Nicole Center are well beyond what the city used to give in the North End Community Center. So if there are opportunities for nonprofits to take over and look after things that used to be the cities and get that leverage, I think we need to talk about it.
Thank you. We'll now shift to population growth and the experience of newcomers, an important part of the city's past, present, and future. Newcomers are choosing where to stay based on jobs, housing, and quality of life. What is one municipal decision you will make in your first year that will directly improve newcomer retention? And how will you measure success? And I don't know who wants to start. Have a moment? You can have a moment. Maybe I'll start. Okay, Gina, do you want to start with that one? What's one municipal decision you'll take in your first year that will directly improve newcomer retention, and how will you measure success?
So I think newcomer retention is people don't stay where they don't feel safe. I said that when I opening comments. People need to feel safe on the streets and safe in their own homes, and they'll stay. People work hard to make these decisions. There's a lot put in behind the scenes. You know, somebody doesn't just wake up and think, oh, I'm going to move to Thailand. No, there's research. Public safety is very important to a lot of the newcomers, and sometimes people will transition out of the city of St. John into outlying areas and local service districts because of safety. So again, I think that would be a really quick top issue that we could kind of pinpoint and go at. Again, you need the available housing. So again, we need that residential growth, because people can't come here. If you can't invite somebody over to your house for a sleepover if you got nowhere for them to sleep, right? It's kind of just, at the end of the day, that's how it is. So if we want people to come here, we need to have the housing available for them. And if we want to keep them here, we need to make sure that they feel safe. And my time's up. Who wants the mic?
As a newcomer, I would imagine that it was a huge decision to come here into a place where you don't recognize everything. You have some language issues, you know, and you're looking to try to build a community and be part of that community. We need to, I think we really need to focus on helping newcomers feel welcome. You know, so to help discrimination, help, you know, help them find homes, help them find a community, so that we bring them into where we live, and we bring them into our culture, and that we can exchange that and, you know, make them feel safe, make them, you know, really help them want to stay here once they are here. And, you know, there's a couple of different ways we can do that. I was connecting with different people, and they're saying that, you know, just the thought of having a space to play soccer or someplace like that is really important. So
I will take the mic then. As a newcomer, I felt really welcome in St. John. So I didn't go the regular or the preordained newcomer pass. I wasn't in contact with any newcomer organizations when I arrived to the city. I tried to join a choir first, but then I realized I cannot sing. So that didn't last long. Then I went to Woodchucks for the X-Throwing League, and that's where I started building my network. I felt very welcome at the two library, and then one people led to another. So I think I was really lucky to experience the community aspect of St. John firsthand without having to be pushed through an official system. So I think, or I want other newcomers to have the same experience, and that would mean probably for less newcomers to be involved, to be more involved in the newcomer welcoming process. So I think that the newcomer centers are mostly run by newcomers who couldn't really fit into the regular population. So this should be fixed. So we don't need a program to integrate newcomers. We need to do our parts, every one of us. Thank you.
Hey, St. John, we want people here. Stop telling people they don't want to be here and that why are they here. We want people here. Looking around this room in St. John, guess what? Most of us and our families were newcomers to St. John. We want to be an inclusive community so everybody feels comfortable being here. We also need to have honest conversations with the newcomers. 3 real short newcomer stories. Guy stopped by the side of the road to help me with a sign the other day. Moved here from Ohio. Why? Because it was St. John, it was cheap, and it was gorgeous, and he loves it here. Been here 5 years. The young lady who cut my hair, her parents are from the States. Why'd they come here? Because they came on vacation, sat on a beach, and said, we're retiring here. Talked to a high school student, graduating, going to the University of Ottawa. I said, do you ever think about going here? Nope, because our family's from away, and we always planned on going away. St. John, love it. It's small. This was the quick in into Canada, but we have bigger things and different plans. We've got to have conversations with folks about why they're here. Some people, this might be their temporary stay. For folks who want to feel as part of a community, St. John, the responsibility is on us. We want them to feel part of this community. We want to teach them to stop over on the side of the road when a funeral's going by. We got to teach them to cheer for our hockey team. We might need to teach some people how to skate. But it's the woodchucks, that's the perfect analogy. If people feel comfortable being in a space and feel part of a community, they'll be here.
So I'm on the Pro Kids Advisory Council. Pro Kids is very near and dear to my heart. As a news reporter, I loved covering their funding announcements because that's life-changing money. And then I've been on the board a couple of years. I'm in a new term now, and that is a help for newcomers and everyone. That if you're coming to this country and you have young children and they want to play soccer and then you can't afford it, then or you want to take dance or you want to be part of an learn to paint or be on a cheer squad. It's a big help. It's invaluable. And that is supported by all the municipalities. No one's aware. Grand Bay, Rosse, Quispam, St. John. And little story on the weekend, there was an art sale at Diamond Jubilee cruise ship terminal that was part of the Art Love campaign. And there was a young artist there who's from Ukraine, just 13. And I think all of us have a story on how the Ukrainian community has impacted St. John in the last few years, and to me it's nothing but great. Like, they're business leaders, and they didn't waste a minute. They were opening those businesses. It felt like in the first 5 minutes they were in St. John, they were making their mark, and more immigrants. Love it. Bring it on.
David, at the end,
Thanks, Mayor. I'm going to pretty much say what everybody else is saying here. We have to give them the services. We want them here. There's a business owner in the crowd tonight that runs a midnight bazaar, and it is a wicked event that brings everybody involved, and it is growing. I remember the first time I went to it, it might have been, what, 100 people there? Now there's over, I don't know, 2,000? Am I right? So it's actually higher than that. We just have to be a little more opening to everything. We've got pro kids for the kids in the sports if they can't afford to do the sports. I mean, this city is awesome. It's St. Awesome. It's like, I don't understand when people say, oh, you ever been to Moncton? Yeah, Moncton's not that great. Here, look at it. So, yeah, I mean, the more the merrier, but what Gina said earlier was we have to have all the infrastructure that's involved to keep them here and to want them to stay here, so.
What measures or metrics would you look at to tell us if we're moving in the right direction? I mean, clearly we could look and see how many people stay after a couple of years or what retention is, but as a municipal council, what would you look to when you look at the community as evidence or as a measure that we're making some success on the retention issue?
Good question. Wow. I guess you would just have to look at the communities that are around West Side, North End, South End, East Side. Yeah, just the vibrancy of what's going on. You know, when Area 506 landed here, has it been 10 years? I mean, that's an awesome venue. And it's just the more that's going on here, the more that it's going to retain people that want to stay here, especially with like jobs and the homes, and you know, make sure that everything's good for them. I did have lunch today at the city market, and I was told today that the tomatoes have gone up 200% to one of the vendors there, and they cannot purchase tomatoes. So it starts here and it goes broader than that.
I want to apologize. I've got this terrible head cold that just will not leave me. It's been in love with me since January. So if I start coughing, I apologize. To calibrate if our retention with immigration is successful or not, we can work with organizations like Prude, but also we would see it in our development growth and in our citizenship growth. So back in 2019, when I campaigned for Ward 4, I think the city of St. John's population was approximately 67,000. When I checked last week, I believe that our registered citizenship is about 78,000. So that would show me that 10,000 people came here in the last 5 years and they're still here. So, because I don't think we've birthed 10,000 babies in our little hospital in North End St. John. So I would say that some of the things that we're doing are certainly working. Like they said, the sense of community, again, or somebody had mentioned earlier, the Crescent Valley Resource Center. So having these hubs where people can go have that sense of community, that sense of safety, and utilize the different resources that are available to them would make it much more manageable to retain their citizenship here within the city limits of St. John.
Thanks, Gina. There's a lot of stats out there right now that help us determine and focus our attention of where we want to bring resources and different services. You know, working off of different organizations like the HTC and taking a look at growing housing stats, permits, vacancy rates, different growth stats of all throughout the city. You know, setting those as priorities so that we can use those to keep our focus on any plans that we're making. Working with community centers to help them support newcomers and new people to St. John by making them feel part of the community again, helping them with forms and getting acclimatized to being in St. John and what kind of things are happening here. St. John's an outstanding city. I love being here, all parts of it, all throughout. And we really can take a look and see what are their needs, what kind of things that you know, they're looking for that will be able to help them want to stay here. What kind of programs can we bring? You know, sports programs are very important to keep these kids healthy, making sure people feel safe. You know, all important.
So I heard the population growth metric, and I think if you look back at the real estate prices from 2019, we can find that other reasons why people were coming here. So I think many of the metrics that we could measure are not representative of how newcomers are integrating or how welcome they feel. So I would focus on qualitative metrics when it comes to measuring welcomeness of people. And yeah, one of these was a personal experience. So when we took our son to the cadets program, then that was a really big surprise that how colorful that the cadets were. So it seems like there are places where newcomers are not just catered to, but really integrated and welcome to the community. So I would try to take a closer look, a more personal look into these opportunities, talk with the newcomers, and gauge the experience through that instead of numbers. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to hear from the frontline organizations on what people are telling them. Like, why'd you come? Why are you leaving? And I'm thinking HTC and Multicultural Association, One Change, even there'd be maybe some applications for Pro Kids. But yeah, like a wide range of organizations, and then maybe if the residents who are still here, maybe they could follow up, we could follow up through their families as to why people left, because there was that big boost in our provincial population, and then there was quite a drop in the last couple of years. So why'd you go?
I work with grade 9s at St. John High, and first day of school this year, I had them in the auditorium and just asked a question. I said, please stand up if you were not born in Canada. And 2/3 to 3/4 of the grade 9s at St. John High School stood up. We are an incredibly growingly diverse city. The metrics we can follow, we certainly have population, we can look at StatsCan, we certainly measure through a lot of our partner organizations what they are finding as far as exit interviews and reasons why people are staying and going. I think the bigger question, I think there are lots of metrics, but I think one of the things that we've been kind of celebrating that we should celebrate with a question mark is our population growth target and our strategic plan is at 2%. But in the past couple of years, we've been beating that. We've been 3+%. And then we look at housing prices, apartment rates, availability. You know, we need to be looking at these statistics and planning our city for a population. And as much as everybody's rushing out to get more, we also need to make sure we have the facilities here when people are here. So it really needs to be balanced. I think there are lots of metrics to measure things. I think there's going to be natural turnover. I would like people to be here who want to be here, and we've got lots of them here.
It's been argued that permanent residents should have the right to vote in local elections. To vote at a federal election or a provincial election, the Constitution declares that you have to be a citizen. But municipalities are creatures of the province. They get their status by legislation. So a change in provincial legislation could in fact allow permanent residents to vote in local campaigns. Yes or no? Are you in favor of a movement like that, of allowing permanent residents merely time away from citizenship, 5 years? Should permanent residents be allowed to vote in local elections?
I think a permanent resident who has been here for a length of time should have a say in the roads, recreation, and safety. But if we're going to do that, just to throw this out with permanent residents, if we're making that change, 16-year-olds need to be able to vote too.
100%. This election is very interesting for political nerds like me. That you know, we had 4 regional mayors acclaimed, and then but province-wide I think it's 25, and then the quite a lot of contested races, and then the deck has all these vacancies because no one ran, and that's not good. That's not democracy. I mean, it was so. I covered the deck for 10 years, and like I remember seeing John McKenzie there, our deputy mayor, like I don't know, 15 years ago. But he cared to do that and then moved on, right? And lots of people do, but it's just, I think that's interesting to examine, like why are people not even submitting names for that? So I actually think that there's a bit too much apathy in our general population, but that if you allowed more people to participate in the process, maybe we'd see more participation. You open it up.
Yeah, so, voter turnout on the municipal elections has been dropping, I think, significantly. So last time it was at 31%, which is crazy low. So, any change that would improve participation is welcome. And I don't feel that this is a very high stakes election. So we have great candidates all over the table. So whoever gets in will probably do a decent job. So I'm not afraid of any level of fraud that would compromise the election or really steer the city wrong. So I'm for anyone who wants to vote, basically voting.
I think they should be able to have the right to vote. We want them to be part of our community and feel like they're part of our community. So let's bring them that. A lot of times, people who are coming here from other countries, they don't have the right to vote. But if we want people to feel part of the community and participate in everything that comes with it, then I think that part of letting them vote is a very important one for sure.
So the Local Governance Act was implemented in 1966, so yeah, it could be a little outdated, but at that point in time, they decided that the voting age was 18 and that permanent residents could not vote because they felt that people should be a little more educated on their communities before making decisions on who will be in power. Could we look at reevaluating it? Yes. Do I think that people still need to be educated on the community, on the resources? True transparency, to run for city council, there's no prep work screening. So maybe having those age limitations will help people make better educated decisions on who they're voting for to represent them. So again, anything can always be reevaluated. I guess you could look at it, if somebody's only here for 3 months, they make a decision on who's going to represent the area and then they relocate. I understand that anybody can do that, but are you going to let a guest in your house tell you what color to paint your walls, or are you going to wait till it's somebody that lives in the house with you and understands your home and your structure before they make permanent decisions? So again, everything can be reevaluated, it can be looked at, but that again would be a provincial thing because voting rights and voting age is restricted under the Local Governance Act, which is provincial.
I would be definitely for it. I think I heard a number out there a week ago or so. It's only 18% of the voter turnout was last election. Is that correct? I'm not sure. 34%. 34%. So it's very low. So I would be in favor of it for sure.
New Brunswick has the second highest rate of self-reported disability in the country. It's over 34%. And accessibility has been an issue that has been raised not only in surveys, but in key informative interviews throughout the community. What is one accessibility barrier in St. John that should not exist, and what would you do about it?
Oof, that's a pretty in-depth question. My daughter has a disability, and it was caught when she was in grade 3. Went to the school said, well, she's not a priority, so that she's not going to get diagnosed properly through the system. So my wife and I had to pay out of pocket for professional diagnostics, and she still struggles with it today. I really can't answer that question because there's quite a few that probably should be, but other than that, there should be definitely some lobbying on some of the disabilities that people have.
It was statistically reported this year that 41.6% of residents who live within St. John live with a disability. Some of them are physical capacities, some of them are intellectual. They vary for everybody. Again, one size does not fit all. So to sit here and say that I would do this one thing, then I would only be speaking to one part of that equation of the 41% of people. So accessibility, when you think of that, is for different variations. So people who have visual issues, but can walk over a curb. We have people that can't get over that curb, but they can see it. So every disability requires different accessibility things. So let's talk about accessibility for everybody, even those without a disability, for a second. Public transit. There's residents that live in Redhead, taxpayers, communities, people even with disabilities. They don't have access to public transportation right now. So if we can expand on accessibility, which they've done a great job, APTU utilized a lot of federal funding, and a lot of our buses are now accessible for those with physical impairments. And again, just remember that just because you look at somebody doesn't mean you know what they live with, what they deal with, and some disabilities are invisible. Thank you.
Thanks, Gina. Accessibility is something that I've been hearing over and over again as I walk through communities and connect with people who are looking for answers and direction and leadership for our city moving forward. I think we really have to connect with those that have accessibility issues and really take a look at what their needs are, what things are really important to them. I know that I've spoken to several people, one person in particular who says that not being able to not to be able to go into certain events around town or other spaces because they don't have the correct parking, or they don't have the correct places where they can safely go in and out. It's hard on their mental health, so he doesn't go out. And these are the people that we have to make sure we don't leave behind.
So every time I read these self-reported disability statistics, it's really frightening or alarming to me, these very high numbers. And when looking into the details, there is really no breakdown into what specific accessibility needs are more in need than others. So I wouldn't be able to answer where to start. First step would be to find the right data to understand which populations are affected, which areas of the city are affected, which domains. So I don't have an answer for this question.
Same, it's a tough one. I would say that historically, as a province and maybe a city, we haven't really done well in this area. I mean, it's 2026. Probably should be doing a better job in this area. On the weekend, I was at one of the cruise ship terminals, and a lady in a wheelchair came in, and her entry and exit was seamless. Never stopped smiling. But I'm sure that's not the case for a lot of people, as evidenced by the statistics we've heard. So definitely work to be done there, but I would need to do a deeper dive on that one.
Thank you. No, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? I think the city has done well. I know the time I've been around with multimodal crosswalk control, and we need to keep doing better with that. But there's audible signals along with the lights. I think one spot we can spend some money from the money guy. That could help. Our review of our winter management plan is coming forward. Better job of sidewalks. Buy a few more sidewalk plows and get the sidewalks done a little better. Again, I understand and why we are where we are, but now that we are on a sound financial footing and can look at some targeted investments, I think that is good for folks who need more access, and I think it's good for everybody. I think if we can do a better job of sidewalks.
Well, let's just focus then on mobility disability. Let's focus in, if self-reported is too nebulous an issue to get a handle on. For those with mobility restrictions in this city, what can the city do? Is it acknowledged as a barrier first off? And if so, what can the city do to overcome that?
I'll stick with my first answer. Sidewalks. No, but beyond sidewalks, we need curb cuts. one of the great things about St. John is it's the oldest incorporated city in Canada. For accessibility, one of the problems in St. John is it's the oldest incorporated city in Canada. So it wasn't built for that. You know, certainly uptown business owners where the sidewalk is here and the front door is here. How do you fit a ramp in, and how do you get an automatic doors control? But we need to work to make sure that things like that can fit within the heritage area. And really, it's a universal design thing for me. Like, there's a lot of conversation about bike lanes. Well, they're not bike lanes. They're accessible lanes, whether you're on a scooter, on a bike, in a wheelchair. You know, and as we continue that active transportation network, that is good for all. I mean, I don't know if it's 5 years down the road, but I see as we continue to build out that network according to our transportation plan, do we get to the point where our sidewalks are good enough that now we got some little plows to go help those things stay a little more clear in the winter as people start to use them more? So I think we are building out the network, but it's one bite at a time. There is more that we can do, and we got to follow those plans and get them done.
Randy, can you say the question again? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm just wondering about mobility restrictions.
Right.
That seems to be a question of accessibility. And what can the city do?
Okay. It's getting late. Wow. Train of thought gone. Come back to me.
So when I arrived to St. John, I wasn't driving. I didn't own a car. But fortunately, I had 2 working legs and a bicycle, so I could get around pretty easily. But if someone is deprived from both of those opportunities, then the city really shrinks. So I think the most important thing would be a public transit network that can get people close to their destinations, and then we can figure out the stairs and curves starting from there. Thank you.
Keeping the conversation going is what the city can do, and keep continuing the conversation with those affected with mobility issues. Sidewalk cleaning is one that I heard several times where, people are trying to use different modes of transportation, even and going from one spot to another, and they can't because, there's snow piled all in those particular spaces for accessible mobility people. And that's just one item. When we're talking about making things better for mobility, let's talk about new facilities that we're building and making them accessible. Bringing that community in, making them feel welcomed and being part of the community itself is a great mental health uptick for sure. And, let's take a look at all of our plans and, rework them and make sure we're getting the focus that we need.
So I'm not sure how well received it would be here. I've been fortunate enough to visit the province of Ontario on multiple occasions, and they're leading in Canada for accessibility. So one thing they are doing now when they redo infrastructure for their roads is they're removing curbed sidewalks. So it's all just one flat asphalt, and there's no parking on roads. There's no parking. And in the wintertime, they plow it. So the bike lane is open 365, the sidewalk is open 365, and so is the road. And instead of increasing their cost for plowing, they were able to add an extension wing on the side of the plow truck. So the plow truck plows the lane as it did, and they added a right arm that covers the sidewalk. So it actually, in some areas, I was told that it reduced their operation expenses because they didn't have to pay the little skid steers to go out and clear the sidewalk separately. It was all done in one go. So again, I'm not sure how well received that idea would be here, but myself, somebody who has one foot to trip over the other with, I am not a big fan of curbed sidewalks. So I do appreciate that easier to gravitate surface. Thank you.
Thanks, Tina. I would definitely be in favor of making it more accessible for everybody. Like I said, I'm on the Canada Games Aquatic Center committee, and there's a big renovation going on here in the next couple of years there for the Canada Games, and they want to put in 4 electric charging stations, and they want to take away the handicap parking. not all of them, but as like, and as a member, I said I was totally against that because I think that's ridiculous that you're going to have 4 charging stations for people that are just going to come from their home, which is, 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers away or whatever. There should be more accessible parking for the members. This kind of hits home with me a little bit. I am friends with a lot of police officers, and one time at Costco, saw a EMS vehicle parked in a handicap spot, didn't have a placard, and I called my friend, and he said, it's none of your business. And I didn't like that. So anyway, thank you.
Sure, you ready?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Mayor.
I'll string a few words together. So just as a motorist, I noticed that after a significant snow event, when people can't get to the bus stop, if they're people that are walking, they're on the road. So it's kind of alarming as a driver. And then as you're driving around, you see, maybe someone with a mobility issue. And that has to be really frustrating when you're just trying to get to work or whatever. The other thing is that and I'm not throwing anyone under the bus, but there have been complaints about how some projects don't really seem to factor that in before, like as it's being developed or designed, and that just seems like it should be a given in this day and age.
I've heard the word transportation a couple of times tonight. Here's a simple question. Should transit expansion be prioritized even if it increases costs?
Nope. We need a transit system that's reliable, dependable, and often. And what will happen is if we decide to take our transit system it's everywhere in St. John, it means 15-minute rides in dense areas become half-hour, 45-minute rides in dense areas because they're 1-hour rides somewhere else. If we want to be a smart city, we need to design our city so it's predictable. And I know it's tough to hear, but we need a great transit system that folks say, hey, I'm a transit user, I want to be a transit user, I need to live on the transit system. We can't be a city where you choose where to live first and then politic to get the service to come to you. I think we need a great transit service, but part of that is being predictable and being often and making sure everybody knows so that if you need transit, you should live on the fantastic transit route.
This is not an area I know much about. I've conflicted feelings because sometimes I'm driving behind a bus, and then I see black smoke billowing into the air. That's upsetting. But I do see that flex bus all the time, and that seems like a huge hit. So this is an area I'd need to do more research on.
Sorry. So I think I share an opinion with Mr. Sullivan on the way the transport system has to be built out. So I also identified unreliability as an issue, both as the buses not being there where you expect them to be there, but also that there are no buses for some people's shifts. So if someone is working weekends, they might get to their job, but they cannot come back on a bus. Or if a bus runs only once an hour, then they have to spend an extra 50 minutes at their destination waiting for their shift to start. So in order for the transport system to work, we need more frequent and more reliable routes, and that cannot be accomplished at a scale, at least not at the start. So our current transit usage is 4%, meaning that only 4% of the people use the public transit for daily commute. That could be improved to 20-25%. Those are standard numbers for bigger cities in Canada and in similar sized cities abroad. And if we improve our recovery rate, which is 35%, so 2/3 of the public transit system has to be funded with the city, and only 1/3 comes from ticket fares. But if the buses are full, then we can get more money coming from the users too. Thank you.
Transit within the city has been an issue with many of the people I've met with at the door. Some people, some families have 2 people working, but only 1 car. And they really need that second source of affordable transportation. And a lot of people are using the bus. We have to support and take a really good look at how we're going to, and review our plans on how we're going to keep people moving on time and at various times all throughout the day. A good transit system is going to keep people up and running, keep people getting to work on time and being able to work within a budget, not having to have 2 cars. And it keeps cars off the road, which goes to, has all that other effect of being good for keeping greenhouse gases lower and, keeping things moving. And a good transit system is good for a working economy in St. John.
So not everybody with their own means of transportation, or not with their own means, I guess. So people experience health issues and their licenses get revoked. People have children and they grow up and they become teenagers and they don't get a driver's license until they're at least 16 years of age. But at the age of 14 and 15, they might want to go down the mall, see some friends. Newcomers are not issued driver's licenses immediately either. So I believe that, again, you can't spend money you don't have, but if there's a will, there's a way. So a few years back, St. John Transit reduced their East St. John routes drastically, and they also reduced them on the west side, and they implemented what they call the flex bus. So I'm not sure what it's going to take or what kind of solutions we can look at to get that flex bus out to the residents in Redhead that I keep hearing from. But if there's only specific times, so the ridership is the cost of bringing the flex bus out to the neighborhood will have the ridership to encourage that. So maybe they'd have it that, we'll be out there at 7, 8, 9, and we'll bring you home at 5, 6, and 7, right? So unfortunately, it might not be, speedy as it would be if you called like a taxi or an Uber or whatever the drive share apps are, or a ride share. But it would still give people with no other option an option to be accessible within the city.
I would definitely try to look at that a little further, because if it's Lorneville to Redhead to the airport, which I know that the bus goes to the airport, everybody should have access to public transit. It hasn't been just going on for about a year or 2. It's been a long time, and there's other cities that do it as well. So if they're having issues here in terms of like trying to figure out logistics, then talk to some of your peers about it. I mean, sure. I mean, there's the flex buses, which I see in my neighborhood quite a lot. So I really don't know. I don't use the bus. But I definitely would see that it would be a benefit for the whole city and not just 80% of the city.
So I think I've heard a few people prepared to spend a bit more, but otherwise, is there any disagreement here? I mean, there's a lot of unanimity amongst the group that's sitting here tonight, not a lot of disagreement. No?
I guess I'd just like to add that all property owners in the city of St. John are taxpayers, they're ratepayers, and they should all be accessible to the resources that the municipality offers. But, well, again, you can't spend money you don't have, so there has to be a way to find a solution to make it work for everybody.
You folks are seeking a seat as an at-large councillor representing the interests of residents throughout the city, but we have 4 wards, and they differ in size, in demographics, in concentration of need. I'd like to return more to the housing and the homelessness issue. Should every ward host supportive housing?
Yes, I think so, because there's probably, even though maybe it's not as visible, I mean, I don't notice it where I live, but the north end is far-reaching. I mean, I may not even know the full dynamic of it. Yeah, I think you should support, at least have some. I think you'd have to determine what is a reasonable amount, but yes.
We can't create, UN term, ghettos. I mentioned earlier, we talk about apartment buildings should have a mix of market and supported apartments. We need all neighborhoods to have a mix. That's what makes a rich community. We were talking about newcomers earlier. I mean, I wore this tie for a reason today. It's about St. John being inclusive. And it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, how you identify. If you want to be a resident of the city of St. John, you should be able to live in the city of St. John. And we struggle with new and with change, but we shouldn't. Folks coming into our neighborhood are folks. They can help the older lady shovel the driveway in the winter. They can help mow the lawn. They can come to your barbecue and serve the potato salad. We need to be an inclusive community, and that is across all demographics.
So I think that this is a two-part question. So I believe that every neighborhood should be willing to welcome supportive housing projects, or more specific, supportive housing units scattered around to not create pockets of poverty. But I don't think that every neighborhood is suited to provide supportive housing, because the support part in supporting housing needs to get there. And I think the more denser inner areas, Ward 1, 2, and 3, which host almost half the population of the city, are better served by public transit, closer to the amenities. So I think supportive housing should concentrate on those areas.
I think that's true. I think that we can continue to build on being part of that, being part of a community, and when we're working with different levels in life, we can uplift some and really bring a different view to other people. When we're working within these type of communities, we want people to be able to be close to services, be good on transit routes, to be able to take care of those type of activities that everybody needs to get to. I think building different types of communities really helps branch out inclusivity, where everyone feels welcome, everyone can feel at home.
So I think with St. John, we already do see a lot of variation. We see residential, mixed residential. You have subdivisions, apartment buildings, commercial. We're a pretty adaptable city. So to have, I think every ward should have like a community shelter and a resource area and such. But do I think that we should put the exact same thing in all different 4 wards? No, we're a community, right? That's why I'm running at large, because I don't believe in boundaries, and I don't believe in drawing a line down McAllister Drive and saying, oh, I'll help you on this side of the road, but not you on the other. And I think that the community as a whole understands that housing is a challenge right now. It's complex, and that we have to have variations of it. We're working really hard to get the things done, but again, it takes multiple levels of government, shareholders, builders, developers. I don't have the right to tell people how to spend their money, and I don't have the right to tell people what to do with their development. But as a counselor, we can work with these people to make initiatives to make them want to do this. And like I had mentioned about the federal funding earlier for the multiple levels of income for housing, maybe the municipality, again, can make incentives for people to want to do that in different wards amongst the city of St. John.
I would be definitely for it. I don't see why it should only be in one area. You know, numerous people said, well, put them all over in Partridge Island. That's not a good spot to put everybody. So, yeah, I mean, you have to include everybody, which goes right from the west side all the way to the east side and to the north end to the south end. And once again, it's another thing, like you've got a lobby with certain people in the provincial politics and along with federal and business leaders and contractors. So, yeah.
What should the city stop doing?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Yeah. Are we allowed to plead the fifth on this one?
That's, yeah, I really don't have an answer for that. I think what the city should stop doing is stop passing the buck to people, I guess. It just seems like I'll pass it to this guy and pass it to this person. No one wants to take any accountability for anything. And I just think that's wrong way to run anything, even a business.
When he handed me the microphone, I drew a blank. I think that one thing we can stop doing is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So we can work again on reevaluating what is working, reevaluate what is not, and eliminate the things that are not, and work on growing together forward to be more productive, to be more resourceful, and to be more, well, I guess you could say transparent with the citizens of St. John.
The city is doing a lot of things that's right. One of the things that I feel that the city is doing wrong is we really need to stop with the poor communication between communities and City Hall. We're working on the city. We want to expand, we want to include growth, but we're not giving residents a chance to be able to be part of that conversation, because sometimes it's almost like that a decision's already made and this is what we're presenting to you and this is what you're being given. We have to start at the bottom. We have to start with the residents and come and bring that open conversation that says, hey, you know, we're looking to have this come into your community. We think it's going to be good. What do you think? Well, we should be able to have that opportunity to say, you know what, we don't think this is a good fit here. We don't think that some of the things that come with this opportunity that you say is really going to be of benefit to us. So let's rework it a little bit. Let's take a second look. Let's review it. Let's have a conversation instead of having something already done and put in writing.
So, based on my experience uptown, I think one of the things that city could stop very easily and would be very cheap and without much side effects is to stop the parking switchovers twice a month. So it creates a very dangerous situation. No one really likes it. We are skipping on the road cleaning that it is meant for. So that's the first thing that I would start on council. Otherwise, land sales. So I would like the city to keep their real estate and try to use it for social housing owned by the city instead of giving it away or selling it at a low cost to developers who then 20 years from now can start raising the rent, and we are left where we are without the extra land that we could use in the future. And sorry.
Stop being awesome? No. I can't really think of one, but what, based on, I think it was Jerry's answer, I would say my experience with City of St. John communication is I signed up for the email alerts, and my most recent job, I was pulling news articles all the time about the city, so I'm pretty aware of what's happening, but I think there may be it's required to have another way to communicate things, like outside of social media, and lighter things the city's doing are not going to get a lot of media attention probably. So maybe like you got to put flyers up on a bulletin board, or think of other ways of sharing the message, because I think there'd be a higher number of people that are not getting that message via social media than we think. And as an example, this event this evening, my aunt asked me to send her the live stream link, which I did via Instagram. And then, oh, I'm almost done. And what was the other one? Oh, a neighbor asked me about the details of where and when today, like a few hours ago. And I thought, really? And I'm sharing the heck out of it.
The city, we need to stop having conversations based on what somebody floated on Facebook, and start having conversations based on facts and data. City Hall, we need to, and we've done better, but we can still do better at this. We need to stop making decisions because something came up and the chamber was filled tonight. We need to make sure that our decisions are based on data and planning and strategy. An example tonight, you wouldn't have seen it because you were all here. We had a decision that came up pretty quick, and we made the decision tonight not to make the decision tonight and to make it in 2 weeks because we felt it was too fast and we needed some more time to think about it. So one of the things we need to stop doing is making decisions because we feel there's a time crunch. Sometimes there are, but it's more important to make a decision right than it is to make it fast.
Data and facts are great. What would you need to know before you could vote on a data center in Lornville?
I'll go first.
I'm in. First of all, it's an interesting follow-up because a lot of people think we already voted on a data center in Lornville. St. John Common Council didn't vote on a data center in Lornville. St. John Common Council voted on a rezoning of an industrial park. And other approvals are at the provincial level in environment. But what would I need to know? I'd need to know what are the economics versus what is the environment, but I also don't have the expertise in that field. And I'd want to know, what are the temporary jobs, what are the permanent jobs, what are the long-term financial benefits to the city, what are the long-term financial benefits that we can go, because I think we need community benefits to the neighborhood, versus what are the environmental impacts, and are there mitigating possibilities to help with that environment, and what are the facts on what's the water use of this facility, what are the facts about what's the electricity use of this facility, not comparing it to, again, some Facebook information or some information that comes from somewhere else. What are the actual facts to do with this development?
Yeah, I've been really hesitant to weigh in on this one. Feels like a hornet's nest. And I think it's tough to weigh in when, this council's been dealing with this for some time. I've not been at those public meetings. I've read a few articles. I will say this, and I'd encourage everyone to check it out, there was a feature on CBS News last weekend about data centers in general, and it didn't paint a pretty picture, and Trump's pretty pro data center, so that says something. But yeah, I would approach everything in this role, would I be successful, with fairness and balance and information.
So I don't think that there would be an offer so that the data center guys would be willing to pay enough for this to make sense. So of course I would listen if they offer the stars, why not? But in the realm of real possibilities, I don't think that the data center is a viable project for St. John. So the around 250 jobs that they offer, is very low compared to the land that they are taking up. This data center would take a third of the newly rezoned industrial park. So that would mean that projecting based on that, we would have 750 jobs, and then the whole park is gone, and we are left with the environmental damage, the damage to the communities, and far from a meaningful impact on unemployment on St. John. And there are many professional reasons or structural reasons why this data center is not a good idea. I only have a minute, so I won't get into it, but there is just no upside to this project.
There is a lot of information and opinions and all kinds of other things that are happening on the data center in question in Lorneville. Yes, the city did pass the expansion, but we really have to understand what we want for our future. How do we want to be impacted on our environment, on clean air, on clean water, clean land? The situation in Lorneville is a bit of a different situation where the citizens themselves in Lorneville have taken extreme measures to connect with everything about the environment and their impact that's happening to them. And you know, it's we have to see what we want for our future. And for our future, I don't think we do not want to have something come in and take our resources and take our environment away from us.
So again, as Gary had said, the industrial park expansion was approved. So they asked for 175 acres. The data center is requesting 89 acres. So whether the data center is successful with their bid to the government of New Brunswick and seeking the environmental approval that they're seeking, there will still be industrial tenants placed in that square footage of land. The rezoning has been approved. Also under the Local Governance Act, you can't undo what's been done. So the rezoning has been approved, so we can vote in a whole new council, lose sight of everything else and just focus on this one specific issue. It's not going to change the fact that 175 acres are going to be turned into an industrial park. There is residents in there. Sorry, I wish we had more than a minute. There is residents in Laurenville that are against it. There is residents in Laurenville that are in hopes that it does get approved. There's people who work away in Ontario, and I received a text message from one gentleman who is a registered property owner in Laurenville, and he said, if you're elected to council, can you do whatever it takes so I can sleep in my own bed at night instead of living in hotels at a province? So no matter what way this data center goes. Again, I'm not an environmentalist. I'm not part of the government of New Brunswick. The land rezoning is already done. We have to then focus, this new council will need to focus on how we do this safely. If the government of New Brunswick approves, the environmentalists and stuff approve this tender, then at that point we need to work on what is it going to take. Residents are concerned about their well water. So what do we need to do to ensure that safety for them? Residents are also concerned about fire protection. So what do we as the municipality need to do to ensure that the residents in Laurenville are safe and that they have the clean drinking water that they've always had? So again, the rezoning is done, and unfortunately that I can't tell you if I would have voted yes or no because I was not part of those closed door meetings. I was not, I'm not somebody, and I say this to everybody that asks me, I'm not gonna believe what I read on social media, and I'm not gonna believe what I see on the back of a bus in a paid for advertisement. I would believe what I seen and what data was presented in a closed door meeting that was open to the dialogue between everybody involved in the decision making.
It's funny that when I put my name forward for nomination, I got two messages strictly about that. And my two answers to the two people that are part of this community, I said no. And I did a little bit of research on data centers in general, not what's going on here, but it's more harmful and impactful than beneficial. So why would we do it? why would you, give that property away for whatever price if they're coming here because they're probably getting a deal or whatever, but yeah, I would definitely vote against it, just from a little bit of research that I've done.
One final question before we get into the closing.
Go Habs, go.
Okay. What's one decision you would make that would be unpopular but necessary?
I don't know, because what's important to these people might not be important to these people, and this, that, and the other thing. Like I just said in my last commentary, no matter what decision we make, there's going to be 6 people happy with it. There's going to be 6 people unhappy with it. So my job would be to find the common ground to try to take everybody's concerns into consideration. As a counselor, our job's not to listen to speak. It's to listen to hear you. Right? I'm hearing residents, I'm hearing their concerns for their wells and their waters, I'm hearing their concerns for fire protection. These are valid concerns. I don't get to pick what tenants go in the industrial park, neither does the rest of this council. There's decisions that are made within the organization that governs the industrial parks. There's leasing, there's managements, these are day-to-day city operations, right? The rezoning was already approved. So I guess at that point, you could say that, I don't know what would be something that you'd have to do. I guess at the end of the day, I'm gonna do whatever is gonna be the greatest benefit to the city as a whole, and not just one specific area. So that's our job, is to listen to everybody and take the data that is given to us and do what's best for the community as a whole.
One of the things that I'm passionate about and support is wanting to become more environmentally friendly in St. John. St. John has a great action plan for building on their environment here, and I think we can continue to do that and strengthen it, and help build that into our community plans and some of our other plans as well. The being wanting clean air, clean water, and clean land goes against some of the other things that we've spoken about here, especially the data center. And we want to make sure that we keep those values at the end, because we want to be able to build that for our future and make sure our future generations have that clean air, clean water, and clean land.
So I have many currently unpopular opinions. And I'm really optimistic about being able to convince people that those are actually real good ideas. One of them that I think is probably closest to feasible would be to reduce the speed limit uptown to 30 kilometers an hour, and hopefully on the Old North End. So with all the stop signs and the school zones, we are already not driving too much faster than that. But having an official 30 kilometer per hour limit would allow cyclists to participate in traffic, so we don't have to paint those flimsy bicycle lanes that are dangerous, uncomfortable, but we can integrate cycling traffic into the life of, or into the road traffic, and make the city safer for people who try to cross the road. So that's what for me. Thank you.
What is the question again?
What are you going to do to make people mad?
Yeah. What would be an unpopular decision?
Oh, yeah. More bike lanes? That is I heard that's the #1 issue of the campaign. I have no idea. I would not want to make people mad. I would actively avoid it.
2 people from this panel are going to end up representing the city, and actually, on this question, I can relax, and everybody should relax. It doesn't matter what you decide to do, you're going to be unpopular. And I'm serious about that. There is no major decision you can make in this city where people aren't going to be unhappy. There's going to be a segment of the population beyond news chasers vilifying you tomorrow. So you might as well relax, collect the facts, and make what you think is the best decision for the city of St. John. And it's okay if what you think is a little different from somebody else. If you love the city, make the best decision you think you can make for the city of St. John. Don't worry, somebody will be mad at you tomorrow.
One minute each to wrap up. Do you want to start down at the end of the road, David? Do you want to go?
Yeah, so May 11th, make sure that you go out and you...
Want the mic?
Yep.
Just on May 11th, make sure that you all go to your elected ballot places and do your process. Thank you very much for the evening, Randy, and everybody here and the candidates, and best of luck.
Thank you all for having me. I think the biggest thing, like I said, that we need to learn to do is sometimes we're going to have to learn to agree to disagree and to put the best foot forward for safety. Again, my whole majority of my thing is focusing on public safety. So if, again, we want to expand, we want to grow, we want to see, you know, in order to, we can't spend money we don't have, and in order to stick to and to continue to go with the rate of inflation, or unfortunately we're going to have development. There's development happening all around this city right now that people are unhappy with, and unfortunately everybody wants development, but nobody wants it in their own backyard, and I understand that. You know, I live in a residential East St. John subdivision, and we're getting a massive apartment building put in the middle, almost in our subdivision. You know, again, my only concern there was, can we make sure that it's safe for the kids that are used to playing on these streets? So change is scary. It is for everybody. And hopefully we realize that the decisions we make today are going to change the futures of tomorrow. You know, and you can't have resources without funding, unfortunately.
I too want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and having this opportunity to be able to speak here tonight. We did a lot of high-level issues here tonight, and some of the things that we wanted to address that, you know, it's connect with me over the next couple of weeks. I'll deep dive into more issues that I'm supporting and opportunity that I see within this city. Let's make sure that, you know, we listen to the citizens, build on community, and get out to vote. The polling station on the west side is open now. You can vote in between, I think it's 10 and 7. I'll post on my page when exactly that is. And the biggest thing for me is, you know, let's make sure that we look out for everybody, and let's keep talking about issues that affect everyone. The data center is not a good fit for Lorneville, and you know, destroying a valuable ecosystem for the sake of industrial resources is not a good idea.
So thank you for having me for this debate, and thank you for allowing me to run for council. And well, during this debate, most of the issues I was preparing to share and present weren't touched. But I don't want to bore you longer, so if you want to check out what I wanted to say, I recommend my website. And well, thank you for bearing with me with the accent and lost words, and have a good night.
This has been fun. It's really interesting being on the other side of this, of being a news reporter in St. John for many, many years. I'd normally be the person on the other side, looking for the sound bites. I heard a few. They weren't me. I may seem a little silly here, but I'm actually very serious when it counts, and I would be as a counselor at large. I covered council a few times over the years, and it was a long, intense night, but many, many, many serious news directors and understood that local news matters, and that if you weren't covering St. John Council, you might as well shut down your operation. It's very important to people what's happening at this level. And I just want to thank everybody for coming out, because this is a pretty good turnout for what is this, Tuesday, Monday? Monday night. See, I'm really tired, sorry. Gary?
Thanks, Tamara. Thanks to Randy and the Human Development Council. Certainly, thank you to everybody who has put their name forward to serve the city of St. John. You don't do this job for the fame and fortune. I love my city. I love St. John. I have lived here my entire life. My dad grew up here. I hope my kids stay here. I want this to be a city for all of us. Working with kids as a teacher throughout my career, I want my students to stay here. This is a wonderful city. We have so much to offer. I'm willing to offer 4 more years of me to help the city move forward. I think I've been effective in the time that I have served. Certainly, we're going to have some great new energy on this next council no matter what. We will have a minimum of 5 new voices around the table, which is fantastic. We need somebody to make sure they don't spend all the money. And please let me help those new voices around the table so we can be focused, we can be strategic, and we can keep the city moving forward.
Well, thanks to all the candidates for their participation this evening and for putting your names forward for public service. A special thanks and a shout out as well to the groups, the Civic Tech who's here tonight. I can see several already, and they've been instrumental in getting a survey up and going and using technology for social good and helping us try to put the spotlight on the community and some of the challenges that are here and how best we can assess the arguments of the candidates as they seek your support going forward. Thank you as well to everyone who's joined us, both here and online. Strong communities depend on informed and engaged residents, and your presence here tonight matters. The Human Development Council and Civic Tech are committed to supporting thoughtful, nonpartisan dialogue on the issues that shape our community. A reminder that the election takes place on May the 11th, advance polls on May 2nd and May 4th. You can also go to a returning office and vote early, but not often. Thank you again. Have a good evening.
Oh my God, ow. That's a long time sitting.
Yeah. Nice to good luck. Nice to see you at the horseshoe. Very cool.
It's fun to be